Well, hello, Billy TK or Billy Te Kahika. That's how you say it, eh?
Well done. Well done.
Been practicing a little bit. Thank you so much for coming along to 30 Plus and Fabulous. We are a women's only community, and we're women over the age of 30. And I just decided to run a political series up until the elections, mainly because I felt like we were seeing a lot of the main parties, Labour and National, you see them all the time, but I felt like we weren't really having much exposure to what we call the minority parties. And I started digging a little bit during the lockdowns and started listening to some of those parties and their policies and their philosophies. And I thought, man, they have some really, really good stuff. Why do we not hear about these parties? So then I stumbled upon you, and as we know, you're rather a controversial topic at the moment in terms of politics, but I would just love to welcome you and let you introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, kia ora, and I'm a big fan of your show. I watched the show the other week with Professor Simon Thornley on, and it was great. I loved it. And so I was really excited that you reached out to me. Thank you. Kia ora tātou e te wahine a tāua. Kua tau mai hau ki te tautoko e te kaupapa whakahirahira tēnei I roto tingoa tapua I whaiti. What I said to you was kia ora, beautiful lady, and it's great to be here to support a wonderful discussion today in the name of Jesus. I'm very much I found myself called the controversial Billy Te Kahika in most interviews that I do, and it's amazing that I get called that because I'm probably the least controversial person I actually know. I'm a deeply in love husband. I've got 6 children, 2 grandchildren. My wife and I have been together for 18 years coming up, and until we found the Lord, our life was up and down as you go through the ocean of life. And but in the last few years in particular, as we've handed our lives over to Christ, our lives still without issues, still not without issues and challenges, but definitely a lot closer, and very, very keen to have people be saved and learn the truth about what Jesus has done for everybody, especially in the time that we have left before his imminent return. Other than that, I've been a guitar player, instrumentalist since I was a kid, but I've been a professional international musician for about 25 years. I'm 48 and have aged unbelievably horribly in the last few months since this journey began. And I never used to have a beard, and now I have. But I've been a business person. I've been involved in international trade, worked with major corporates, taking corporate business overseas and getting new contracts and new channels open for New Zealand companies, ranging from wine companies to various products made by New Zealand companies. Have been involved also with youth advocacy as well around road safety and financial literacy, helping kids understand that there's a great life out there for them. They have to work hard. It ain't going to come for free, but takes a PMA and a bit of faith and a lot of elbow grease, and you can get ahead. I grew up in a state house in Māngere, and with a beautiful, beautiful Pākehā mum, and my father's a Māori, and so grew up with a good balance in life from an ethnic point of view, even though my dad wasn't around us all the time, and certainly grew up with a great appreciation for people of all different backgrounds. And but I'm a self-starter. I'm really deeply concerned about people in New Zealand having the things that we should be able to take for granted, like homes, good homes, healthy homes to live in. I'm really desperately concerned for the homeless people on the streets, especially those with mental health as well. So my wife and I have, on and off the last couple of years, been involved just on our own, looking after the homeless in Tamaki, especially in the central CBD area in Auckland, around Sky City and all that. We feed and house and feed and clothe them and just give them love, let them know that they're cared for. And I live on a beautiful, almost organic little 23-acre farm in Auckland raised, but living in Te Tai Tokiro, Northland, which is my electorate seat that I'm contesting, and God willing will win in the next week or two. but deeply committed to this pathway that we're on with Advanced New Zealand, which is the party I represent. I'm the co-leader of that, which started with New Zealand Public Party, which started completely naively out of a series of broadcasts that I started at home on my farm and during lockdown that went viral, completely bananas.
Yep.
And really what's happened is I found myself the appointed focal point of a concern that ordinary New Zealanders, middle New Zealanders like you and I, and many different types of New Zealanders have. We've got deep concerns about where this government has taken us. We've had concerns where the last government were trying to take us, but we're definitely concerned that that we have a communist government to deal with in the form of the Labour Party.
So can I just stop you for a second and just say, just based on where you've come from, and you're quite a nice lifestyle. It sounds like quite a nice family life. You've got an organic farm, or you've just lived what feels like quite a nice existence. What the heck? Why politics? How?
Yeah, well, I've never ever had any desire to be a politician. I don't normally like them. Particularly because I find that they'll change their minds based on what and their integrity based on what they think will get them a vote. I'm not like that. Could never be like that. I've never had an interest in working at the Beehive in Parliament. But I guess the COVID-19 situation really opened up a whole opportunity to look at a whole can of worms that revealed in terms of the problems of this government and where we were heading as a nation underneath this leadership. And I started to do these broadcasts that were attracting 50,000 to 150 to 200,000 views per video, and and on Facebook platform. And the calls to stand to take a stand to air these concerns, and then not only air them but solve them within Parliament, was something that I resisted very strongly. It was something that my wife and I weren't interested in. We wanted to educate people and spread the gospel, because not all of my broadcasts were based on just on the geopolitics. I was also doing Bible studies as well with them, and so I really wanted to focus on that aspect. But more and more people were saying, please, we need somebody to make a stand and defend us against what we can see coming down the pipeline.
So did it literally just start from those viral, so you just started chatting on your own personal Facebook page? So you were never a politician, you were never associated with any politicians, and then you just decided that you were going to fight this battle?
Correct. Yeah, that's essentially correct. And it's loony. It totally is. Like, we're now at the point where we've had about 2.5 million people engagements. We've got over 7,000 members. We've got teams of hundreds of people across New Zealand right now that are out there beating the streets, letting people know that Advanced New Zealand is a very sensible, logical, ordinary New Zealand party. It's a people's movement. We're not an ideology. We're not a series of political lollipops that we sat in a corner devised to try and get people to vote for us. This is truly a movement that's emanated out of the concerns of the people, and these concerns are real. They're not conspiracy theories. They are deeply real. They are deeply concerning. And it was the wave of people that asked me to stand that I was saying no to. And then one day I sort of looked at myself in the mirror and I thought, metaphorically speaking, I thought, man, do I want this? No, I don't. But if I don't take a stand, who else will? And I couldn't see anyone on the political landscape saying the same things that I was prepared to say. And so I prayed on it. I said to the Lord, Lord, if you're going to do this, make it spectacular. I know it's going to be hard. Protect me as much as you can.
Dangerous prayer.
I know it's going to be horrible. I know it's going to be hard, but please protect me and my family as much as our whānau, as much as you can. But I'll stand and fight the fight. But you make it spectacular, and it has been.
It has been spectacular from what I've seen. So how old is the party?
Okay, so we launched on, I'm going to get this right because I forget myself sometimes. So New Zealand Public Party launched on August the 11th, June the 11th, on a Thursday night. So I decided before that Thursday, on the Sunday, that I'd make a stand and create a platform. On the Monday, I reconfirmed that. Tuesday, we came up with a name. Wednesday, we said we'd launch it on the Thursday. We came up with a logo. We found a venue, announced we're having the venue and the launch on the Thursday, and we launched it on the Thursday the same week.
Oh, that's
And
crazy.
I know. And then just like massively, we streaked across the political landscape, and everybody hated us immediately, and all the minor parties hated me immediately, and it was just terrible. But the people love, the people support. The fact that I feel, and I don't say this lightly, I do feel God's hand in the party, and I do feel he's pushing the movement forward to keep freedom open long enough so that people can learn more about the gospel, because I truly believe that amongst losing our sovereignty, we're going to lose the opportunity to hear the gospel, and that's all I'm standing for. Number one, protecting our freedoms.
Freedom of speech.
Yeah, that's the ultimate driver. I'm not, it's not power, it's not money, it's not fame, it's not any of that. I really want to be able to rescue our country, fix some of the things that are wrong about the government, about the governing system, do my term, and then go home to my farm and my babies and get back into ministry, which is where my heart is.
Do you think that's going to happen if if you make it into government? Do you think that you're going to be able to end it there? Are you going to be able to make those changes and then walk away? Do you think that's something that you'll be able to do, or is it going to,
Well, they say that once people taste Parliament, they never ever want to let go of biting on it. And I've heard from politicians that said they started off life like me, very, very philosophical and genuine. Excuse me, I'm just going to close this window a bit. And then suddenly that Parliament creates them into a different human being. I know there's a friend of mine who was a lovely husband and father, went down a year later, he's got a new young girlfriend, and there goes his father, and that. Yeah. So it's yuck. I'm deeply aware of all of that down there. I think we've got a huge fight to bring about the policies that we have, which are on our website, advancencpp.org, and also on our Facebook page. But the policies that we have need to be fought for, and they need to be fought for now, because if we don't, then we're going to lose our country. And the only way to fight that is to do it from within Parliament. You cannot do it from outside.
Yeah, you've got to get in there. So what would be your focus policies?
Well, I guess we've got a number of really great policies. We really do, ranging from housing through to finance, through to immigration, through to economics, through to firearms licensing, through to direct democracy, through to national independence, exposing foreign interference and things like that. But the number one, I guess, all of these policies sort of fall out of the bottom of a packet of what I call 5. The first one is democracy. We need to reinstate and get democracy back. We don't have that at the moment. We've got a government that thinks that they've got the self-appointed authority to introduce bills and laws whenever it likes, without following the requisite and appropriate democratic processes. The COVID-19 public health response bill was introduced at 4 a.m. apparently, and didn't go through the process, select committee, public commentary, any of that. It was just brought in. The subsequent amendment to the Act, which was done a few weeks ago, as you know, took only 3 hours of urgent rush through without any consultation with anyone. They did it. They then came up with a policy where they would develop 17 new policies, and in 17 hours, that was the big joke around Parliament, that Labor had said they were going to do that. So what we have, we've got a tax on free speech as well. Now, I want to be very, very clear that, hate speech to me is abhorrent. We don't want anything nasty and horrible online, especially for kids to have access to. But the problem with all of these bills that this government is introducing and bringing into law is that the very, very broad scope that they have given themselves to interpret it and apply it any which way they want to. And that's very, 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 very worrying for anyone that knows what this government really stands for. It's a socialist communist government. Let's call it right up front what it is. It's exactly that.
That's so interesting, because one of the other parties I was talking to just yesterday said the same thing, and the party before didn't quite say it as outrightly, but it seems to be that all of the minority parties have pretty much exactly the same idea of this government. They're calling them socialist and communist. And so what does that mean? What does it mean?
So really, when you look at it, I don't know if anyone watching this has read anything of Karl Marx, but when you understand socialism, it really is about understanding that there's two classes of people in the socialist world, and one, the big bulk of the people, is called the proletariat. That's you and I. We're the herd, and then there's the 1%, the hierarchy, right? And what they believe in is that everything is about the greater good through consensus, and that it's all about productivity. We are all numbers. We all produce, and we all have output, and the 1% manage that output, and how the assets and resources are managed from that output. It's totalitarian in the way that it manages authoritarianism. It controls it indoctrinates every aspect of human life, from what you think, education, the way that medical sovereignty is dished out, what you can and can't do with businesses, with your land, how it rations what you do with water collection, how you collect it. And it goes on and on and on. It's really about total control. In order to do that, you need to collapse economy. You need to collapse the middle class, and you need to destroy, various sectors of independence in business, such as SMEs. You need to attack the SMEs because the power of the middle class is what they're against. And you also need to control the flow of food and harvesting and growing. And that's why we've got such an attack on the agri sector today. So communism itself, they've changed the terminology of it, and they now try and replace communism, and listen how clever they think they are. They call it communitarianism.
Wow, yeah. Well, that sounds more friendly when you say it like that, doesn't it?
I know, but look, here's a little book here, and I said it before. This is called Behind the Green Mask at UN Agenda 21. What? Now, people have got to understand and read these agendas, because this is what Jacinda Ardern has committed New Zealand to. She's committed to full implementation of Agenda 2030, which is the full implementation of Agenda 21. These are United Nations agendas. They're real, as real as I am sitting here talking to you. And it's based on three key pillars. One is economy, environment, and what they call equity, social equity. That's communism all the way through, because they control the environment, they control the economy, and social justice and social equity is that if you've got lots, I've got a right to come and take what you've got and give it to someone else. That's communism.
So they just want to make it a level playing field for everybody, so everybody kind of has the same kind of income, or what does it look like?
Yeah, so it has different threads to it. It really does. And first of all, it is about creating a huge reliance of your population on the government. It's all about state reliance.
Why do they want that? Why would they want that?
Because you control the food, you control the money, you control the people. That's 101 communism. 101.
Why do they want that control? These politicians who I know of grew up in New Zealand. They had a Kiwi lifestyle. They were Kiwi kids. So why would they want our life to be different? Why would they want it to be any different? What's the payoff? That's the key question I ask myself every day. How do ordinary Kiwis like you and I ever want to sign us up to these programs? Yeah. United Nations programs that will destroy exactly what we're talking about. These programs here that have been in New Zealand since 1992, which have been backdoored into operationalism and through councils and district councils and regional councils, is now about to be filtered through and implemented through central government, right? And it's being done right now. So right now, central government around New Zealand is going into councils trying to control water infrastructure and get local councils to surrender their water infrastructure management to centralisation. So everything's about centralisation and control. And you do wonder how the heck ordinary New Zealanders would go with this. But when you examine the background of Prime Minister Ardern, it becomes very, very clear that from a very, very young age she was very much a communist, and she started her political career young. She was groomed by Helen Clark, who is a communist. She's the former Prime Minister, as we know, but former number one of the United Nations Development Programme, former number 3 in the United Nations. And when you study United Nations to the very core, it's socialism and communism to the very, almost the very core. There's another layer in the middle of it, and it's a spiritual layer. And
And when Jacinda went through that, she then went to the UK. She worked for Tony Blair, who's a globalist. She then came back and she promptly began her professional career, but was elected in 2008 as the president of the International Youth Socialist Organisation.
Wow.
And when you go through these types of internships and those types of roles, you either are or you're not fully in the program, and she is fully in the program. Nothing short of.
So if she is the socialist and has the communist agenda for this country, how is she coming? She's so nice. She's so lovely, and I don't know. She always seems like she has such a nice way of relating to people. So I don't really understand her. She always seems to sound like she wants the best for us, but I mean, I don't think socialism sounds like the best. So I'm just it's just a bit confusing. She seems like she really cares about New Zealand and wants to help us. So I don't know. Can you unpack that at all for me? Why is she?
She's the perfect sales agent for these programs. So I just want to make that clear. I've been dealing with people that have been destroyed by the rollout of their COVID-19 response plan, and I've watched her smile very broadly as she says, if you don't follow what she says, she'll lock you up for an extra 14 days if you're in quarantine, which is absolutely abhorrent. That's not how democratic governments work. She is the smiling assassin. John Key was no different. He was a smiling assassin, very nice guy, but selling New Zealand from underneath us as we're walking on our turf. I don't believe Jacinda's anything different. I think she's ramping it up from the leftist side, the socialist side. I think she's very one in an intent to get these programs fully implemented into our society. There's something I've learned recently, and that is, don't listen to politicians' rhetoric, watch their behaviour, because that's the ultimate betrayal of it. And when you examine all these laws that they're bringing in, how they've done it, it's like a 101 communist handbook being rolled out. And I say that very, very, very seriously. I don't take it lightly that I'm making these statements. I've researched it, and I'm deeply concerned that such a apparently lovely lady, would do some of this. I mean, let's be real here. The week that she was showing solidarity for those poor whānau that had their families murdered down in Christchurch, she was wearing a hijab, as we know. That week that she was wearing that hijab, there were Iranian women being jailed for 36 years for protesting about wearing a hijab.
Yeah.
And there's all these types of contradictions where the delivery mechanism of the propaganda and how she delivers it is very, very outwardly intact. It's very intact, but when you look behind it, examine it, and then you can see that these massive problems. And don't get me wrong, I worked with Jacinda's father for a week in UA, a lovely man, and very hospitable towards me. I had a coffee with Jacinda at the airport about 18 months ago when I bumped into her, and again, very cordial, sitting down. I was having a bit of a moan about our NZ aid money being wasted and squandered in the South Pacific, where I worked for many years. And but that was still back in the days where a lot of the behaviour hadn't yet been exposed, and now it is, and so that's what we're standing against.
So even you back then would have thought, such a nice lady, such a nice family, so you believed that and bought into it. And has it only been the fact that you've dived head first into politics that you've actually uncovered stuff that you probably weren't aware of regarding this government? And
yeah, I started getting a bit worried about some of the attitudes towards business. I started getting worried about some of my friends that were going through certain things in the agricultural sector. I've always known about Agenda 21 sustainable development, and that it was going to eventually destroy things if fully implemented in New Zealand. It would destroy our primary sector heritage, because it's about inventory and stock control of everything. And I always knew that was coming. But when she stood on a stage in an event called Goalkeepers last year in New York in August, it was an event sponsored by the globalist himself, Bill and Melinda Gates.
Oh, wow.
He stood on that platform and announced to the world that she would commit New Zealand and her government to full implementation of Agenda 2030 principles, and that we can't stand for, because when you know what she's saying, it's disastrous. And it's, let's be real too, it's godless It's a godless program with Mother Earth, the Gaia hypothesis, the Gaia becomes the goddess, and we're all subject to it. So the idea of environmentalism, I'm an environmentalist. I absolutely believe we need to clean up our act and preserve our bush, our fauna, our forests, our rivers, etc., our sea. I'm all for that, but that's the excuse that they're using to bring in control measures that, if fully implemented under these programs, would destroy everything for us. We won't be able to grow what we want to grow. If we do grow, they'll give us the seed to grow with, which will be their seed, probably GMO.
Monsanto is what I've heard from yesterday's discussion, and Monsanto, a single seeding harvest. Yeah, wow.
Right. And that's not conspiracy. That's happening all around the world right now.
Mm.
But what happens is, you see, this is where I start to leave other parties behind, because I've really worked my way through it. And what you have within the spectrum, you have the left and the right. You have socialism, communism. You have what's called the free market economy, which is your what they call the right, or capitalism or free market over here. And also where fascism emanates out of. Now, fascism is when you start talking about the strength of the corporate power to dominate governments through public-private partnerships, right? Public-private partnerships, or PPPs. And what happens is that when you get a socialist government, they can use fascism from the right and those corporates like Monsanto to control banking, to control food, water, everything, but they control it from the totalitarian left. So, of course, because fascism, people forget that fascists, when they think of Nazis were socialists, the Socialist Workers' Party of Germany. And so that's where it came from. So when you look at full rollout of these agendas, you'll find that there will be multinational companies that will control all banking. They'll control probably a cashless society. They will control, what we grow with, and that's including these Monsanto seeds that we know only yield one harvest, and you've got to go back there. But the issue is also what's in the GMO stuff as well. So these are the things that are all in these programs, and they're real. And this is what Prime Minister Ardern wants to bring and fully implement in our society, and we can't stand for it. We just can't. And that includes.
I can't understand why she would want this for us. I can't understand what benefit is that for us. Like, we're a happy little. I know we probably were a little bit too sleepy of a country because we didn't notice this stuff coming in, did we? I don't really get it. Can I just sort of deviate a little bit, because I want to I want to not sort of throw you in the deep end here, but when you become a politician, I know that straight away, and you've exploded onto the scene, let's face it, nobody's ever done this before. I don't think anybody expected it to last. It has. It's grown momentum, and people know either of you, or they either love you or hate you, and there's kind of no in between. And there's a lot of, I guess, attacks on your person that happen when you come into an explosion like that. You've just become a face so quickly in New Zealand. Can I ask you some of the questions that people want answered about, some of the things that people are saying about you? And I've just got some questions here, if that's okay.
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Yep.
So let me just see. Okay, I know that they want to know if you have any affiliations or anything with the Freemasonry or Freemasons. Just the name, again, I totally am asking from a completely naive standpoint on this one, because I don't know all of the people in the party, but I do know that there was the name Michael Stace, who's somewhere at the top there, and people were saying that he's got Freemasonry or something to do with Freemasonry. Can you
Sure.
a little bit?
Absolutely. So number one, as a Christian lecturer, I do go around and I lecture against Freemasonry, because Freemasonry was also everywhere across New Zealand. It's around the world. It's involved in a lot of the issues that we're dealing with today. However, I try and educate people about the threat of Freemasonry if left to have its way in societies. I've done it from a biblical perspective and a historical perspective. Michael Stace is an American. He's now a Kiwi. And when he first came to New Zealand, he couldn't get a job, and he got a job as a marketing man for Freemasonry New Zealand. He did 3 years for it, working there, got to see exactly what it was all about. He left that, hasn't been involved with it since, and like me, in fact, he's probably even got a real bee in his bonnet to want to expose Freemasonry and get rid of it, because Freemasonry is unique in New Zealand in some respects because it's by statute recognised and
Yeah.
protected. So we need, like no other group in New Zealand, so we need to actually find out about that and make sure that we can deconstruct that. So we're dead against Freemasonry.
Okay, so the party does not have affiliations with
No.
Freemasonry, and it was only because he worked for them, not as one of them.
Right.
Okay.
And on top of that too, may I point out that Freemasonry New Zealand right now has scholarships in Parliament right now.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Of
Wow.
which Jacinda Ardern was a
Yeah.
recipient of.
And I guess that's where it just makes it like a nice little Lions Club kind of thing. Hey, oh, we'll support you through this, and it makes them look like you said, it just gives them kind of a nice face. But really behind that, the layers are not good.
But also, just to clarify a little bit more about that, and this is important that we know that, is that most of the Freemasons don't know much about Freemasonry at all.
Oh wow.
So it's really not until you get past the 28th degree into the 30th degree range that you understand what Freemasonry is and what its intent is, who they worship, what it's about. And the lower blue laws, or the royal degrees, or the blue degrees, you could be what's called a Master Mason, which is still very low and junior in the degree ranking system. And so it's not, so most of the guys that are involved in Freemasonry New Zealand, they're ordinary, decent Kiwis. There's nothing wrong with them. But if you go past that 28th degree, you then become what's called an initiate into the Freemasonry system, and that's where the rubber hits the road, and that's where some very, very interesting and challenging things start to happen in terms of what they're wanting to achieve, who they work for, shall I put it, and what their objectives are. So we stand against that.
Okay, that's really good and solid to know. This is a funny one. Are you a seven-day Adventist?
I used to be. I still am in many ways. I'm not a member of any church. I am a Bible-believing, Sabbath-keeping Christian. I grew up with a Catholic whānau and a Ratana church whānau. So I grew up going to church on Sunday. I then did historic and biblical research that said that all Christians for hundreds and hundreds of years all throughout time have kept the seventh-day Sabbath. It's never been changed by the Lord. It's never been done away with. And that's the biblical Christianity is where I'm at. I'm a Protestant. So nothing should be taught from outside of the Bible. All truth is in the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, and that's called biblical Christianity, fundamentalism, fundamentalistic Christianity. Exactly what I am, and this is what again socialism stands against. Because again, with socialism and communism, you have what they call secular humanism, and that is there is no God.
Yeah,
and so
that's what China rolls out, isn't it? Like I've heard.
That's right, absolutely. Yeah. That's exactly where China's at, and that's and that's also why we have to be concerned with how cozy the last government, and especially this government, are with China.
Oh wow, okay, that scares me, because I mean, I don't know heaps, but I know enough, because I know enough Chinese people. They are some of the nicest people I've ever met, by the way. They are the least likely to ring noise control if you're being too loud. They just keep they mind their business. They're just so lovely. They don't cause any trouble, and I think it's because they've come from a place where they just know, just keep your head down and just go about your business, and you won't get in trouble. And I feel like, I've heard from Chinese people that they can feel that flavour of that feeling of China coming to New Zealand, which really does scare me. I'm just going to look at these questions again quickly, because I want to make sure that the girls get their answers on some things. Candidates. So some candidates leaving, citing bullying. Yeah. So there's been some candidates left Advance New Zealand. Yeah,
absolutely.
Explain that.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, this organisation grew so very, very quick, rapidly beyond expectation. We had people join the party as candidates that I didn't even know they existed until I met them as a candidate on a candidate night.
Yeah.
And some of them that we had come on board weren't suitable. There were some deep problems with some of them. A couple of them ended up committing a crime that we as candidates that we are now taking legal action, and the police are involved with that. And look, my thing is this: is that if someone asks me if I'm or a candidate is suitable to be a representative of them in Parliament, if I cannot handle my heart say yes they are, they shouldn't be there, Natalia. They cannot be there. And if they cannot, if I can't, with all hand on my heart, that this person has got all their faculties together, they shouldn't be in this movement. And and what we've done is we've allowed these people to sort of roll out their behaviour over a period of time, to which we knew there were issues up front. When I spoke to some of the executives, I said, guys, such and such and this and that and the rest of it. And so what we did is that we took a cautious approach to letting them sort of really expose where they were at. And then basically they ended up, taking the decision to resign. We very, very seriously. I take that really, really seriously. We don't want more of the same in Parliament that we've had, and we don't want mentally unstable people in there either. And every time that people ask me about this, what's happened, I'll say the same thing. If I can't trust someone, just whether they agree with me or not, it's got nothing to do with it. It's all about whether they've got the faculties all together that we can trust them if they get into Parliament. And if they can't, they shouldn't be there.
I think that's, from my perspective, that's wisdom, and amazing that you've caught on to that so quickly, because even in my small, it's nothing like explosive like yours, but even in just my community that I have, I remember it exploded quite quickly as well. And we ended up with people who, I guess, let's call them your candidates. Mine were like my moderators of my group. And there were people who came in who I didn't really feel comfortable with. And I just had a funny feeling, I just knew, and I'd start seeing things. Anyway, I just left it, I let it go. And I was just like, I'm just being harsh. And things got bigger and I got busier. So I couldn't connect with them as much as I wanted to, which is pretty much, I guess, what you're saying. And then it just imploded, and the attack came directly on me, and my name was the one dragged through the mud, and I was the one who was made to look like a total horrible, disgusting person. And so I actually do relate to some of the stuff that you're going through on a different level, but I can see how that happens, because it's just, it's just gotten so big so quickly. And how can you be in charge of every single detail of every single person all the way to the bottom? It's just impossible.
I'm so glad you've said that, because the public, having a broad mix of public that support us, means we come across every shapes of personality and human that you can think of, and I care deeply for them all, but some of them are very, very unique, shall we say, and you've got to be careful as well with that. But it's a different thing when they're candidates. I mean, we even had candidates plan to blackmail myself and Michael Stace. Literally, we've got a recording of them planning to try and fabricate a case, blackmail me, get me into the House of Representatives, and then essentially blackmail a sitting MP, a member of the House of Representatives. And it's
what's the
driver?
Why would they do that?
I think what happens is that when people join this thing and they've got very, very strong ambitions, right? Everybody wants the number one chair. That's the biggest joke of it, because the amount of times I've said to other minor parties, if they would join us, if it needed me to leave, I'd do it in a heartbeat and go back to my beautiful wife and family at my at our farm. And I think people always think that they can do a better job than you, and if they think you're a strong personality and can't get you out, they're going to try and force you out, which is what they were trying to do. And it was just ugly. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I mean, one of them was a so-called Christian lady that was involved in our candidacy that I supported from day one and helped immensely on a personal basis. And just people that felt like they were getting their Billy time, and then felt that they could do a better job than me, and we weren't strong on certain policies that they wanted in. And so they wanted to roll me and Michael and roll Jamie Lee Ross, and it was just unbelievable, and
it's so funny, because it's really not the party without you guys in it. So, I mean, it would be kind of a little bit ridiculous, wouldn't it? Even if you did get rolled, it would be kind of like, well, who's that? Who is that?
Yeah, it didn't make any sense to us, but, within internal conversations, for me, it's about getting the principles and values of this movement, which is the people's movement, inside Parliament to protect our country, protect sovereignty, protect democracy, repair the economy, and all those things. And if there was a guarantee that by resigning that would happen, I'd do it in a second, with less than a second.
Your whole heart, isn't it? Your whole heart is just that you saw that this country is literally just falling apart. We're going down a really scary road. and you just wanted, you thought, I guess, like you just had so much passion, you were like, not that you wanted the job, but who else is going to do it? Somebody's got to stand up and do it. So based on that, there was all of the talk with the other minor parties in the beginning, and I've had quite a lot of conversations with some other minor parties now, and not about each other, not about you or anything, but just you all seem to have the exact same philosophies on going into government, and everybody has the same heart for it. So when you guys were looking at merging together with other parties, and I know that it didn't quite go as planned, what would have been, I'm trying to word it properly, but they wouldn't join with you because they were quite well branded already, I suppose. What would have stopped you from joining with one of them?
Yeah, so that's been one of the great disappointments for me, really, is looking into politics and how selfish people are. It's all about me, getting me into the job and all that. And even as I sit here now, if someone could guarantee the movement in and I needed to be out, I'd go in a heartbeat. One of the things that we had immediately was just absolute, from the minor parties, they were devastated that such a new organisation, a political movement, had just streaked across their pathway and just not only took members off them, but candidates. And you see, the thing with Advance New Zealand, we're dealing with all of the issues. We've got the conservatism aspect, we've got the monetary reform aspect, we've got the environmental outdoors aspect, but we've got all the other aspects that the parties don't have in the right way. And so we're not a one-trick pony. We've got some flipping, really awesome policies, well thought out policies by everyday New Zealanders. And the key thing is about all of us, and I'd say 99% of us involved in the party, none of us have wanted to be politicians. So we've never sat around trying to dream up policies that we can sell voters to vote for us or create a political party around. We've never been like that. And I guess when you turn up and you're very genuinely and naively like that, and you turn up and people are struggling to get recognition, it's a very bitter pill to swallow.
Yeah.
When someone like us, who's never had any ambitions to be, like me, that's never had any ambition to be in Parliament, suddenly grab the numbers, the people, the attention, the hate, the love, and it kind of rains on your parade, and that's what we've been getting. I mean, I support, like even today I was at a debate this morning with the Opportunities Party and the Sustainable New Zealand Party, Māori Party, and there are things that I agree with completely with them. There are a lot of things I don't, but I respect them to do that. But some of the real petty attacks that we've had from the other parties is just unbelievable, considering we want the same thing as them. And now, and one of the things is, you see, I'm a practical meat and potatoes guy. So one of the things I always say is, and I said to them, I said, guys, you've been trying for 73 years to get in Parliament. Last election, you had 806 votes nationally. Your niche channel, if you like, is like that. We've got this big sucker. Why don't you bolt on what you've got? Let's sail into, as co-leaders, let's sail into Parliament together.
Yeah. So you couldn't actually have done it the opposite way around because you already had I guess what you're called in terms of business, it's called the sweet spot. You've kind of hit the sweet spot. You've appealed to all of the people and all of the things that they want. It's all encompassed into one kind of brand in a way. So if you tacked on to somebody else, I guess, it kind of waters down the movement in a way. Whereas if they tack on to you, they're just one part of the solution. I can see what you're saying. They're all quite niched. Like all the different parties are quite niched, whereas yours is the full encompassing of all of those things. That's kind of what you are, eh?
Yeah, and we're dealing with this is a real desperate time we're living in. This election, we've never had an election like this. And I said to the outdoors party, I said, come on, let's get your outdoors policies and give them life and legs. No. I spoke to Chris Leach, come on, mate. I great respect for social credits, monetary policies. We've got a lot of the same policies in our party now. Can you please join us? No. It just went on and on like that. And we've got three other component parties in our party. and that have come on board and joined the Advanced New Zealand Alliance, of which New Zealand Public Party did as well. And so it was never ever about it being a New Zealand Public Party thing and me being the single leader. It was about which is the best way to get our country protected and get our values into the House.
Mm-hmm.
And what really did sort of astound me is that these people weren't keen to recognise it, and now they're still having a go at us. This morning we had an attack by the New Conservatives, one by Outdoors Party, and we don't go down that way. I won't allow us to go down that way of attacking them. They must think we're the world's easiest target because we don't have a go at them. But we're focused on getting rid of this corrupt government and getting ourselves and not fighting parties that aren't even polling.
Such a pity, because actually every single one of those people who I've talked to have been really lovely people, and I've really enjoyed the conversation, and the policies have been great. It's just a pity that there can't be more synergy between the parties, because it would be amazing. We all agree that it would be amazing. Hey, can I ask you one question? This is a little bit off topic, and it's about the whole Maori sovereignty. Sorry, I can't say Māori sovereignty thing. And because I know that now, just correct me because I don't know exactly, but I know that your dad was. Actually, you explain it to us, because I think the question is people are saying, are you a Maori sovereignist or whatever, or are you going to bring that into it and push all the white people aside? That's basically the fear that people are talking about. So can you explain that?
Yeah, so to give you a bit of context on that, the other week I got called a white supremacist by Māori commentators.
Okay.
Yep. The other week I got called a Māori separatist from the Pākehā commentators. And I get called that every day of my life, with people who haven't stopped to actually listen to what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. The sovereignty that I'm talking about is sovereignty for you, for me, for all of us as New Zealanders. There is a document that the Ngāpuhi leaders of 1832 and 1835 developed, and it was called the Proclamation of Independence, which was based on sovereignty. Now, that sovereignty document is sometimes referred to as the Declaration of Independence. The Māori name for it is He Whakaputanga. Now, this document is a document that all of us, Māori and non-Māori, can all come under and have individual sovereignty. This document was ratified and recognised by the monarchy of the time. It's legal, it's lawful, it's recognised in the highest levels in British monarchy and in law. It is a reality. I never used to believe in it, never had any time for the talk around it, but I've learnt about it, and it's something that all of us, in fact, this will smoke your wheels. Some of the best people that have taught me about it have been Pākehā people that are trying to educate people about it as much as we can. Oh, so definitely no separatism. I mean, my mum is a beautiful French-Irish lady. My dad is a Māori, and I love both sides of my whānau and my heritage. The fact is, I grew up in New Zealand Aotearoa. I grew up with my Māori surname, Te Kahika, Billy Te Kahika. And so I lean more to this side. I've been to France and love France. So my twin sister spent a bit of time there. And so we're very much connected to that part of us as well. So no, it's not about anything to do with Māori separatism. I'm against that. I believe we need to be, as a family, lock arms as New Zealanders. There is no doubt that tangata whenua Māori have a special place here as in leadership and in kaitiakitanga, or guardians of the land, but it's not at the expense of diminishing other people and diminishing other races. And our family. Our families are a mix of everything. When you look around our whānau, we are one. We are one, and I'm standing up for sovereignty for you, for me, for Māori, for non-Māori, for all of us. And that's where people with any sort of racial uncertainty themselves perhaps need to look at themselves and listen to what I'm saying, because there's nothing in it that's racial about it. So they need to take a deep breath and relax and know that, hell no. And it's funny, actually, because the other week when I got called a white supremacist by these Māori academics, it makes me laugh so much. It really, really does. That they could say that. I'm for everybody, and they can't stomach that because they've got an agenda that they want. But we can still get tangata whenua and Māori rights and sovereignty recognised, and it doesn't mean that we diminish anyone else's rights and freedoms, and it certainly doesn't. We don't need to separate out. In fact, we need more unity at this time more than ever, then we need the vision. And, you know, Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. You see, I said that the other week and I got hammered by that. I'm a white supremacist by saying that all lives matter. Well, they blinking well do. Ask Jesus about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Quite frankly, I don't know how you stay so calm, because, I mean, you know, like you get attacked left, right and centre, and that's all I've really ever heard, just, you know, one attack after the other. If I wasn't, you know, following a few of these minorities already and just actually watching what they're doing, I would probably be on the bandwagon with other people thinking, oh, this crazy woman just comes out of nowhere, and, you know, like, you know, it does look crazy. It looks like, what the heck, how did this happen? So you'd listen to the narrative that you hear through mainstream, and then you would be tarred with a certain brush, which you have been. And then when I'm listening to journalists, well, haven't watched TV for 7 years, but I still see everything on Facebook, and I still see what journalists print, and it really gets on my nerves, which is why I wanted to run this series, because I feel like anything journalists say, I want to dig deeper, and I want to find out why they're saying that, because it's usually somewhere either the opposite or somewhere in the middle. So but yeah, for you, I don't know how you can stomach it. I would have stomach ulcers by now if I asked you the level of attack you get.
Yeah, I mean, God is a great protector. Number one, I've got a wife that supports me. I mean, like yesterday, I had an interview with Stuff.co that I knew was going to be hard, and they've been attacking me and Jamie Lee from day one, and going hard. And yesterday, the attack was, I don't pay my bills, I don't pay people, I'm violent, I'm a bully, despite being a white ribbon ambassador. I belittled someone with a speech impediment, which I'd never do. I've got an autistic son. What else was it? I've lied about my military career, lied about my police career, lied about what else? There was something. Today I'm from the same Stuff.co. I'm now anti-Semitic. You know, I'm anti-Jewish. We've got one of my brothers who helps me and supports me a lot, and he's a candidate, is Jewish. My office where I run my campaign from is in an Israeli cafe. The brother there, who's Israeli, looks after me like I'm one of his family. He loves us, and I love him. And yet I'm an anti-Semite. You know, I commit adultery left, right, and centre. You know, all this.
I don't know where you find the time, quite frankly.
Oh, look, it's unreal, you know. And at the end of the day, anyone with a brain and a heart that spends 30 seconds with me feels me out in a second and knows that where I'm coming from, and none of that's true. I mean, there's a lady that I brought down to work with us for a few months last year, and she's still here. She's from the US, and we treated her like family. We loved her. My wife loved her. I loved her. We brought her here. And she's a musician lady that we work with, and now she's come out and said that when she worked with me, she saw me sleep with about a dozen women, and all this nonsense, you know, just, you know, and what drives someone to do that, you know? And she was disappointed that
drive someone to say that.
Oh, just, you know, and the guy that she's engaged with now was one of my dear friends, who so we launched a defamation proceedings against her, and I stopped it because he's my mate. Her man is my friend, who I love dearly, an Irish man, and, you know, to get to her, I've got to hurt him, and I'm not prepared to do that. And that was what yesterday was about. You know, it was about these attacks and all that. And, you know, she was upset with me because due to COVID-19, I haven't released an album that we worked on. So that was that was the basis of her disharmony towards me, but just unbelievable. And so, you know, when you do
your integrity is being attacked constantly, and is that just politics for you, or is that politics that you've entered into? It's a new kind of politics because no one expected this explosion, so they're just coming at you from all angles, just trying to finish you. I don't know, that's what it looks like from an outside perspective.
Yeah, it does look like that, you know. I mean, like Jamie Lee, I mean, after this interview, I walked out halfway through it yesterday, and I just, you know, they started to have a go at me about my faith, and I went, that's it, catch you later. I got up, thank you very much for your time, you're offensive now, I'm leaving, goodbye. And I left in the middle of it, and I rang up Jamie Lee and said, hey, look what happened here. And he said, mate, that's nothing compared to what I've been through. I mean, he's been through, you know, so much so, you know, attacks on him have been like, you know, good on him for still walking around. You know, he was really, really, really hammered when he exposed the thing with National Receiving Communist Chinese Party. Chinese Communist Party funding in national, he got hell. But I think what this is that I think the status quo, the parties in it, don't want this movement. It is a real people's movement, and we are going to blow the whistle. If we see something wrong in Parliament and we can't stop it or fix it, we will let you know, the people know. If we see something that they're trying to keep quiet, we will let the public know. We are a public movement, we are a people's movement, and we will get in there and bring balance. We will get in there and bring integrity and accountability. And and they don't want that. And believe you me, the media here is complicit to the narrative. There is no, the single source of truth is what Jacinda refers to the government as being, and yet they have proved to be the single source of disinformation, of fear, of socialism and communism and godlessness here. They are definitely the single source of that. And National as well are very, very well, not much different, except they would wear a blue shirt instead of a red one to get the job done. And, political commentators have said to me, look, the difference with National is that they'll do the same things, but they'll take longer to do it. Mm-hmm. And I think, and I've examined National very, very closely, and they're right. And, and I was involved with a business initiative about 3 years ago called the Oceania Silk Road, which was meant to be an independent think tank of New Zealand businesses and Chinese businesses. And I got invited along to speak about the Māori economy, and I went along to try and get some better business for my whānau farms that we own, dairy and agricultural farms, tourism, and was quite excited. I thought, hey, this is great. It could be good. Wow, exciting. I was only one of two men invited to speak about this.
Good opportunity, yeah.
Yeah, for Māori. But, a few months into it, I realised what it was. It was a junket. It was a Chinese Communist Party initiative. I was offered free trips to China, you name it. And I said no to all of it. I realised what it was. And I did the Michael Jackson moonwalk out of there. And now I'm exposing, Chinese Communist Party influence through business in New Zealand. I participated in a rally of protest outside the Chinese consulate in Green Lane last Thursday. And I met a lot of those beautiful Chinese people that you're talking about. They're lovely people. One of the best bosses I ever had when I was a young man was a Chinese boss, a Chinese man who owned a business. And they are absolutely petrified by this government. They see the behavior. Yeah. They know what it is. It starts with hate speech laws. It starts with COVID-19 type laws. It starts with internet censorship bills like what Tracy Martin from NZ First has brought into law. It starts with controlling the narrative, controlling the media, and that's what they're seeing. And these Chinese people are deeply, deeply scared about what they're seeing here. This government knows that there are Chinese Communist Party agents here in Auckland intimidating Chinese community members here in our country. We're going to eradicate that, because a lot of these people, they're not just the Falun Gong people or the Falun Gong people. These are also Christian Chinese people, our brethren that believe in Jesus as well, that are getting intimidated by agents of the Communist Chinese Party trying to get them to either shut up or do things in a certain way. This is New Zealand. This is our country. We will boot those people out. We'll find them. But it just shows you how corrupt this government is, because they know they're there. There's no doubt about it that they would know. And that's what's happening in our country. So when you talk about the different influences, whether it be blue with National or red in Labour, both of those parties are playing to the same songbook, I'm afraid to say.
It's just I feel like, this isn't even conspiracy theory at all, because now I've interviewed enough minority parties and other people to know, like farmers. I've listened to farmers, I've talked to authors, and I have, I guess I've gone down the rabbit hole in these discussions, but really what everybody is saying, and you're not even connected to each other, everybody's saying that this government that's in currently is not good. Oh, my battery's just about to go flat. Hold on. Well, I didn't know I was talking that long. And so that everybody's scared of this government, or like lots of people, or not scared, but really concerned about what's happening with this government. So all of the minority parties, all of the people who I'm having a conversation with are worried about this government. So why are the people not? Is it just literally because the media narrative has been controlled by this particular government? How is it that they've infiltrated, or so many people are indoctrinated, I guess, by what you call the smiling assassin. How is it that we've all been so convinced then, if really she is that?
Well, I think number one is that we want to believe it. We want to believe that she is what she appears to be. I think that's the number one thing. But I think there's another thing, is the fear of waking up to the opposite might be true. And I think that's as much as a motivation not to wake up to what's happening.
Yeah.
You know, I really do. And I understand that fear. I do. I felt it myself. I've looked at this from every angle. I've woken up sometimes thinking, no, come on, Billy, come on, they can't be like that.
Yeah.
Surely they wouldn't do that, but they are doing it. They're doing it right in front of us in plain sight. One of the indoctrination pathways that totalitarian governments do is that they control the narrative. First of all, they start to say that they are the single source of truth.
That did scare me. I have to say, like, if nothing else that I've ever heard, that did actually make me go, whoa, that's actually really scary.
Yeah, it's true. And so, Stalin said it. It's indoctrination propaganda. Hitler said it. It's 101 totalitarianism was when they say they are the single source of truth. And then, of course, during lockdown at 1 o'clock every day, you had a party political broadcast, every day for about 20 minutes before they finally gave you the medical update.
Yeah.
There's continually drumming in, but again, the key thing is as well is that when we were believing all of that, all of us believed at that time that we were going to have 40,000 dead New Zealanders if we deal with this, that lethality of the disease was between 3 and 6% high, that we needed to lock down, that elimination strategy is the only way to go. But what happened was at that early time when I was investigating it, I started to come across other credible sources of information like Stanford University and beyond, of course, our own COVID-19 Plan B team led by Professor Simon Thornley, who I've got great respect for and admiration for. And then that started to really open up my eyes that, hold on a second, there are some real questions around, what this government is saying, and therefore its response strategy in dealing with COVID-19. And then the more and more I went down that rabbit hole, the more that it looked worse and worse and bad as to why this government will be doing this. And then, of course, he tied in with some of the other programs and agendas that they want to do. It all leads to a pathway that makes the delivery of those other things that they want to do much easier and much more of a pipeline situation. They're creating the environment for these things to occur. But when you look at it, and then so what I did early is that I stood up and said, hey, we need to look at the medical science because there are other credible sources saying that there are massive problems. So what we said very early on is that the lockdowns aren't going to work. They're going to destroy our economy. Elimination strategy won't work because we've never been able to eliminate winter flu. We've never been able to eliminate the common cold or pneumonia, which will kill anyone who's elderly or got comorbidity situations. It'll kill them just as quickly as COVID-19. But we haven't packed down our economy and destroyed our freedoms. We also said that the lethality of the disease would end up being recognised as being the same as the winter flu spectrum. So anywhere from 0.5 to 1%, or in what they call IFR, infection fatality risk or rate, would be the same as the winter flu. Now, as you saw in Professor Thornley's graph the other week, the deaths in the age group last year are almost exactly the same of what we've experienced this year. The difference, if I'm right, there was 0.28 or 29% difference, which is no difference, between this year and last year. And so what we did, we were saying that loud and clear. We're the only party saying it, and we got called conspiracy nutters. Well, what's happened now is, of course, WHO come out and said, and CDC, Centre for Disease Control and Prevention, have said, elimination is not necessary. You need to live with it and develop herd immunity and deal with it. Lockdowns aren't going to work because they'll destroy the economy and cause much more social disease and mental health illnesses if we lock down. And also the lethality of the disease is in the same spectrum range as the winter flu. WHO has said it, CDC, Oxford University, Stanford, Auckland University. It goes, thousands of scientists across the world are saying it. And yet our government hasn't modified and adapted its behaviour and its response strategy to COVID-19.
And why have they not? Why have they not adapted on this new information? Because I thought that's what we're all about, keeping our finger on the pulse to do the best thing for New Zealand as the information becomes available. But I must say that I did notice that not long after Dr. Simon Thornley had his discussion about it with various other people, wasn't long before he was being called conspiratorial as well. So do they actually want statistics, or is there something else going on with that as well?
Well, again, if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, looks like a duck, it's a duck, and that's looking at the evidences. And, Michael Baker from Otago University, who's been hostile towards Simon Thornley, he's a recipient of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation funding, which is discoverable. It's not conspiracy, it's a fact. And
I did actually email him for a conversation, and I didn't get a reply back from him.
Didn't. Yeah, I bet you did. If he knew that Simon had been on here, I'm sure he wouldn't reply and be interested in being involved in all that. So, in terms of, why aren't they adapting and modifying the behaviour? That's the million and one. Well, actually, no, it's the $240 billion question, that we've got to ask. And once we're in government, we will want to set up a New Zealand People's Commission that will investigate this and hold those accountable who have mismanaged this response, who have caused countless lives to be destroyed, people that have committed suicide because they've lost jobs and businesses that I know of. They need to be held accountable. We as a party stand for that. We will get into Parliament to do that, because it cannot be left to stand that this type of failure to adapt and modify the response hasn't been taken up by this government. And I'm still watching businesses die right now as I'm sitting here talking to you. And this is again, and then, you see these other policies that are coming out where they're strengthening again, Agenda 21, they're wanting all us to become state reliant. You mentioned farmers earlier. I have spoken with numerous amounts of farmers, federated farmer presidents, all that sort of thing. And they know exactly all about Agenda 21, and they know it's coming for them to destroy them. And that's not a conspiracy. That's a fact, So,
it's been so weird. Like, honestly, it's been a real eye opener for me, because the conversations haven't just been with politicians, they've been with, like I said, farmers and authors and everyday people, and everybody seems to know what's going on, and they're all talking about it, but nobody's really listening. And that, again, I think that's just the whole media driven narrative. We're only hearing one side of the story, which is like, seems all fluffed up and lovely, and that we're being looked after. But from what I'm gathering now after all these interviews, it's actually really scary. And yeah, I'm actually quite terrified of either of the main parties getting back in now, which obviously will happen. But on that note, and you definitely feel like you're going to get into government, with Labor and National both saying they don't want to work with you. How does that work?
Well, the thing is, we don't want to work with them either. They're both ghastly. They are. I don't particularly trust Ms. Collins at all, and they want the same things. They want Agenda 2030 fully implemented. They haven't stated it as obvious as Jacinda has, but they've definitely done that. And really, they are cut from virtually an identical cloth, just coming at it from a different angle. I think what we need to do is, we pretty much need to be our own island in the sun, in the harbour of Parliament. And we need to take an approach that we're there to serve the people and to watch out for the people. And if you can keep that approach firmly in mind, then our job is to fight for policies that'll get in. It's to also not only fight for the policy side, but also to blow the whistle when we see corrupt behaviour or things that have been done that aren't going to serve the interests of the people. And that's the whole thing. That's the whole motivation. That's why I'm sitting here. I really just have one intent, and that's to get in, provide this protectorate within the chambers of the House of Representatives for the people. That's my number one thing. And that way, once that's in place, and we look at our constitution, we look at our New Zealand Bill of Rights, we look at the sovereignty issue for all New Zealanders and make sure that they're protected, then I can happily go back to my farm and get back to ministry, which is what I want to do. In my business, my own business, as well as is taken off. Believe it or not, I work during the day in politics, and I work till about 2 in the morning every day doing. So I've got bags in my.
Oh, I'm tired listening to you tell me this.
yeah. But I don't. I want to help people as well. I'm working on a housing project to help people get into houses, and that's as a business. I'm doing that, and I'm really excited about that with some of the things. So outside of politics, I've got some really wonderful things that the Lord's blessed me with, but right now this is the most, other than my beautiful wife and children, and of course God is number one. This is the most important thing that I can be doing right now.
I mean, you're obviously absolutely passionate about this because you want us to have the Kiwi lifestyle again. Are there just some days when you wish that you just never stumbled upon this? Are there days where you just go, oh, I just wish that I had stuck with the narrative?
Yeah. No, I do sometimes kind of get a bit upset with it. Or I did an interview today with Vinny Eastwood, and he's a family man like me, and we're talking, and I just, and this has never happened before in any part of my life, but we started talking about why are we doing this fight, and I ended up shedding a few tears on camera, which I'm not prone to doing, and he had a cry and I had a cry, and it's because of what we stand up for. I'm dreadfully homesick right now. I miss my wife and my kids. I missed my daughter's birthday the week before last. She turned 15, and my boy was 10 last week, so I got home for that, and then got out, left the next a couple of days later. My son jumped on my lap. He's 10 on Friday and said to me, Dad, are you going on Sunday again? I said, yeah, I have to, son. And he just burst out into tears, and that's not like him. He's a staunch little bugger. So we're doing it because it has to be done. We've got 11 days left, 10 days tomorrow to protect our country, Natalia, and we need each other to do this. In terms of why advance New Zealand, we are the only party that's got the broad range of policies that will fix this, democracy, all that. We also are a public watchdog organisation that we will get in and protect all of us. I don't care what background you come from. We are your movement. And that's when people hear me talk like this, they go, hold on a second, you're not a separatist at all. Hold on a second, you're for everyone. Hold on a second, you're not a nutter. And this is the narrative that this complicit media are out to put out about us. And also the minor parties, because they hate us and they can't believe what's happening, they're trying to feed it as well. It's unbelievable. It's something
the problem is that you can't really defend yourself. Journalism used to be that you would have an article or a video, and then everybody would be able to comment underneath, and they have turned off the comments now, so you can't defend yourself, you can't link anything, you just can't defend yourself. So literally all you can do is feed your own story and try and tell your own story as much as possible, as far and wide as possible, but apart from that, it's a little bit hard to compete with those big guys, eh?
Well, yeah, but you know what? I'll tell you something. We've got no money as a party. We're probably one of, people think we're funded unbelievably so, but it's a people's movement. People pay us forward for things. They paid our court costs the other day when Jamie Lee and I took TV3 to the High Court, which we should have won. We should have won that decision. We really, really should have. Our argument was just superb.
I saw that the New Conservatives are now doing something similar, taking someone to court.
Thinking about it.
Oh, thinking about it, yeah.
We didn't think about it. We did it. We lodged a claim. We prepared our legal paperwork, and we did it.
Yeah.
Saying I'm gonna. We've had enough of I'm gonna. And that's we spoke. We had so many times where we approached New Conservatives. We had a couple of their big sponsors join us, left the New Conservatives and come over to us because they just didn't think that that the policy depth was right. They didn't think that some of the policies that they did have, they thought they were very strange. Had parts to it that I think are really strange. I really like Leighton Baker, the leader. I do. I think he's a good, decent man. And yet they've allowed their people just to absolutely horrendously slander us and defame us. And I'm really really surprised by that.
I wonder if it's that same thing though, like, you know, you're Leighton and you're, you know, Billy, and there's all these different people beneath you saying this and saying that, and it's hard to put out all the fires all the time, but
yeah.
I mean, I guess everybody's decent and everybody's fighting the same battle. It's just on different levels, and yeah, you know, it's horrible to think that you have to fight each other as well. Like, you're all going for the same thing, and it feels like, just, you know, just it just is frustrating. It's just like, everyone come together and push forth.
Exactly. That's exactly my philosophy. And, you know, we approached Newcons 3 times. I approached Outdoors Party half a dozen times, and, you know, Social Credit twice. You know, we really did the whole 9 yards to get people to amalgamate. They didn't need to change anything. To be a composite party in Advanced New Zealand, you don't lose anything. You don't.
Oh, so they wouldn't have lost their own positions.
No,
See, now I thought the reason why. See, I thought that. Are you asking them?
Leighton would have been a co-leader. Sue Gray would have been a co-leader,
Oh, wow.
and they would keep their own boards. Nothing changes. They just come over. They could still compete for the electorates, but they push through the Advanced New Zealand party vote, which they would be a part and be on the list with us in the high list ranking. We all would have got in together, and they just wouldn't, you know. And the excuses that we're getting from the more Newcon, Social Credit, and Outdoors Party, we're just so weak. It was devastating for me, because I'm still pretty naive to all of this, and I just think, you know, I look practically and pragmatically, and like, hell, what do we need to do this? Let's just get ourselves all over the line, and then after the election, we could have all broken away into our own parties again, and but they just couldn't. They couldn't cross that line. It was bizarre. And
like, you know, you had so much passion and you came on so quickly, and you know, that, like you said, you know, there might have been a bit of intimidation there, and but then they also might have thought, you're a renegade, you won't last, you know. That, I guess there's quite a, you know, it's quite a mishmash of reasons why it might not have worked out, but I still feel like, you know, passion is a big driver, and you know, I see that absolutely in you and the party. I think that's, you know, obviously going to be the thing that drives you immensely across the line, in my opinion, just from my observation. Not that I know, you know, any of you personally, but I just, from an outside perspective, you look just so full of passion. I'm just going to ask you a couple more questions down this line as well, because I want to make sure the ladies get their questions answered. I think that you've already covered this one. It says, what is your affiliation with Helen Clark? And I'm pretty sure that you don't have an affiliation with Helen Clark.
So this is one of my favorite stories. I went to the United Nations in 2016 to try and see if there was some funding that we could use and get to have a big Indigenous cultural festival in New Zealand. So I was speaking to our brother, the Celts from Scotland. I was speaking to our brother Samis from Scandinavia, the Africans, South Americans, you name it, everyone. And I went there to try and, I got to be honest, to see if I could hustle some United Nations funding for it, because the New Zealand government was so slow to deal with. And this was a concept that I'd come across when I was working on some New Zealand projects, and I went to Brazil to look at the World Indigenous Festival Games, the World Indigenous Games. And so I went to see Helen Clark to have a meeting with her, as she was the #1 at the United Nations Development Program, where Indigenous issues falls into. And I went in and had a really neat meeting. She had 300 requests that week to meet, and she only could meet 3, and I was one of the 3. So my Māori team and I, we went in to meet with her, had a very lovely meeting, got a very lovely letter of support from her, and told to, work with her team. She sure there'd be some money there, but it came at a price. That price was we would need to become a United Nations NGO status group, and I was not prepared to do that at all.
Yeah.
And so we didn't get any money, and there ended the relationship with Helen Clark. And so
a nice photo, a nice letter, and no actual outcome, no money and no outcome.
No, and there was definitely no let's go for a quiet coffee and muffins after the meeting with Helen Clark. Completely
ripped off, in my opinion.
Yeah. It was so funny because she knew one of my uncles, Koro Wetere, who was a well-known Māori politician back in the day, part of Labour at the time. Because, you know, one of the things you got to say is that Labour of today is not the Labour of the Norman Kirk era and of the 70s and 80s. It's a much different beast today, you know. And the last time I voted, when I was a kid, was Labour. And it won't be that this time around, because Labour is it's gone fully communist. It really has. It's socialism 101. To the point where, Jacinda says last week, let's have a meatless Monday, which is completely out of the Agenda 21 doctrine.
Is she like, you probably don't know, but who knows? Is she vegetarian? Like, I don't know. Is she vegetarian? I know you're a vegetarian, aren't you?
Well, most of the time, I do eat fish. I love fish. I shouldn't admit it, but I do. And if I'm really, really hungry, because I find myself I don't eat very well at the moment. I eat perfectly well at home, but I sort of eat what I can get now when I'm on the road. And when I'm hungry, I'll eat anything. I'll eat a beer, but but I don't know. But it's definitely out of the United Nations agendas 21 and 2030. Doctrine to
farming stuff that we were talking about, and kind of
what eating.
That. Yeah, I did actually hear her live stream the other day, and I was really kind of annoyed. I actually commented on it. I usually don't. She said something about they were going to replace the dairy factories or wanted to get oat milk or something in there, and I was like, oh no, I don't know if I can handle oat milk. So can I just quickly ask as well? Okay, so I've got this question here. Is your dad a UN ambassador? I have not heard that one.
Yeah. So my dear daddy, he's a hippie peace ambassador.
Okay.
And so and he really is. He really believes, and this is why, to be told yesterday in this interview that I'm a physically violent bully is amazing, because my dad brought me up. We call it pai mairere or rangi māriatanga, which is peace. And my dad is a peace ambassador. And so as part of the Confederated Tribes of Aotearoa, he was nominated a peace ambassador to go to United Nations events. That's it.
Okay. So he went to the United Nations, and now everybody, and again, it's like, this is the thing that frustrates me about all of these conversations I'm having with all of these people. It's like, the things that people conjure up out of like a photo or somebody else's comment, it's like, man, really just a little bit of critical thinking would solve the problem for you, but people are so happy to jump on a bandwagon and join the accusation. So it's good being able to answer all these questions, I reckon. So this one here, is it true $100,000 of koha is still unaccounted for?
No, it's not. It's a complete lie. Again, from the same people that wanted to roll myself, Michael Stace and Jamie Lee Rice, said that I had $100,000 in a tin under my bed.
Oh yeah, same. Same.
No, it just goes on and on. I wish we had $100,000 under our bed. We could do a New Zealand Herald campaign, but no, it's not true. We actually started tracking and tracing our money and reporting on it way before we needed to, before it became official that we had to. We were doing it weeks before. Every type of money that we get goes through an accounting program that records it. It's called the Zero Accounting Program, that records everything. It goes through a bank account. It's strictly monitored. The koha things, we've got a double signing process when we take money off a collection. It could be anywhere between $300 to $2,000. Could be $100. Doesn't matter. We have two people receive it, sign it off, and it goes into a little tin. And I can assure you that the little tin would not fit $100,000 in it. I'd love to try it. I'd love to be able to try it.
I was going to say, can't yours, because mine's fine. Mine can fit the full 100,000, and probably.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on, because I've got to take it for our event tonight. It's
got
This is the little tin. It's got about $30 worth of change in it.
Oh, don't you spend that all at once, will you?
So these are the papers that we've been signing from this week's events, but it's got about, I don't know if you can see that, but it's got $30 in it.
Oh yeah, lots and lots. Yeah. You're quite a concern, I think. I don't know. We should have you audited immediately. I did actually see you've released your financial records to everybody, so you've been pretty transparent in that way. Don't know how much more transparent you can get than that.
Well, I tell you what, we challenged every other political party to do the same thing, to register their cash received reports and also their financial reports, and not one of them have done it. Not one of them. We asked every minor party, we asked the big parties, publish your records so we can all have a look at them like we did, and not one of them would and have.
I wonder wonder why not, because it's not like it's their personal savings or anything related to them personally that, you know, would embarrass them or anything like that. It's just literally what's going through the business. So that's kind of, you would think that would be pretty easy to, yeah. Oh well, that's cool. At least you've done it. So you've stayed transparent. Well, I've heard other other politicians talk about transparency. I've not seen anything like that so far. Okay.
No, it was really important to do that. I mean, you know, we had again, you know, people like these new Conservative supporters saying that we were being investigated by the SO5, and then of course Stuff.co said that we're being investigated. So what happened was when we published our records, and we also let the Electoral Commission know that people were making these accusations about us. And what happened was a couple of them had rung the SFO up and trying to get us into trouble in the Electoral Commission. And to their credit, and I've never seen a government agencies work so quick in my life, but within 24 hours of these accusations, they cleared us. And we did a press release on it and sent that out, and not one media organisation released our press release that was clearing us. Not one.
So back again, rewind. I know we've talked about this briefly, but what do the journalists have to gain, or the media have to gain, by not telling the full story of all of the different parties? Why are they only, you know, sort of projecting one picture here?
I don't know. I think I'm an easy target. I think I'm an interesting target. I mean, Jamie Lee has had his huge lashings of being dealt with like that. I think I'm a new target. And I think that, you know, when you do explode into the scene like this, and you're called the controversial Billy Te Kahika, and I must admit they do at times call me the controversial and charismatic Billy Te Kahika. It's funny when I ring my wife up, I go, honey, it's me, the controversial Billy Te Kahika. We have a bit of a giggle, but I think I'm an easy target. I think I'm an easy pick. I think, you know, I haven't lived a sanitized life. Golly, I wish I had, you know, but I'm a human. I've got my bruises and I've got my scrapes. I'm real, and got nothing to hide. I am what I am. Yeah. My wife takes me, God takes me as I am. My friends take me as I am. The people that are supporting this movement know I've got their hearts and their futures and the interests at the centre of my heart. And I think that's what I'm judged on. So I woke up today and I realised something came to me, and it was that I'm here for the people. I'm not here for Stuff.co. And if people want to make an assumption about me, there's nothing I can do about it. You know, if people think I'm a Chinese communist secret agent or United Nations secret agent, or if they think I'm some whatever, then you know.
You've been called a lot of names, let's face it. It's almost like, haven't you been called so far? I don't know. I know you haven't been called a pedophile.
Well, you know what? No, actually, I'll tell you something. I'll tell you where they did go about a month ago, and it was pretty well. Somebody must have clamped it down because on Facebook, because the Outdoors Party, and I'm going to call them out for it, two of their candidates, one of them, Tracy Livingston, had found some trolling information, some trolling stuff, and she published it. When I was 34, I had a 19-year-old girlfriend in the Cook Islands who was Miss Cook Islands, and you know, we were girlfriend and boyfriend. It was great. Our families loved each other. It didn't work out. That's life. But they turned that into Oz and Rarotonga grooming young girls for sex, young schoolgirls.
Oh.
You know, that's what they turned it into, and that's what Tracy Livingston and Outdoors Party tried to propagate. And that's how dirty it is. I mean, that's, you know, so yeah, it's you know, poor old Michael Stace has had to endure being claimed that he's a CIA agent. He's a pedophile, convicted pedophile who escaped to New Zealand. He's despite being a private investigator licensed by the authorities in New Zealand and being background checked beyond anything you can think of. FBI cleared, all those sorts of things. You know, he's been, you know, Freemason tag, saying that he's a Freemason deep insider, all those sorts of things. You name it, it just goes on and on and on. And at the end of the day, if you're not certain about who you are and why you're here and doing this job, you're going to fall over. And I am certain. I know why I'm here, and I know who's backing me. So
I mean, because honestly, you'd just spend your whole time defending yourself if you didn't know who you were exactly, eh? And you're sounding pretty much like the same attacks come on the old American Republican Party. It sounds the same. It's just like one assassination after the other.
I know, and people are claiming that I'm like Trump.
Oh, okay.
Minus the billions of dollars, of course.
Here and all that.
Yeah, I know. It's quite funny, but you know that's why this conversation, and I'm hoping you might have me on again one day, is so important to me, because it's an ordinary conversation, and the best way to talk through things is to talk through things, with respect, with openness and transparency. And I said something the other day, and I can't believe it. It's quite accurate and profound. Is that I may not be a perfect man, but I'm perfect for this job.
It's a good one. Even though I don't know why you'd want the job, but yep, you are perfect for it. That's true. So, I don't know, good conversation. I was just telling my girls this morning, because I've got some moderators on the group who are helping me just sort of forward the questions through and all that sort of thing out of the group. We've had lots of discussions and all that sort of thing. And then when we tried to lock in this interview, there was a bit of a kerfuffle about the times and the days, and it got a little bit misconstrued. And I said to them, do you know what? I think I like you even better, because that's exactly what I'm like. I'm exactly like that. I'm like, I'll put in the time, and that's when I think I'm going to do the interview. And then, but then trying to get hold of me again for the next 12 hours is like, good luck. That's what it's like with me. Messages come in left, right, and centre. Your message goes to the bottom of the barrel. I might not see it. It's like that. And I thought that I really resonate with the way you are, and how you've just again exploded onto the scene. I know that you're trying to keep on top of everything. Like it must be the most crazy position to be in. You're also the face of this. It is kind of like a brand. It's a movement, but you are the face of it. You're the one that people want to see. So it would be it's a massive upholding that you've taken on, and I just am blown away by the fact that you're even doing it. Like, it just blows my mind. And I just think it's amazing that anybody would want to carry on.
Well, to all the lovely ladies out there watching this, the mummies, the soon-to-be mummies, the daughters, the sisters that are watching this, I'm doing it for you, that you will have a free New Zealand to grow your babies, and free to make a choice. If we're about pro-choice. If you want to vaccinate your baby, you're welcome to. Just make sure it's safe. If you don't want to, that should be available as well. And that's why we're doing it. And we're doing a freedom rally this Saturday, if you're not busy, at Aotea Square at 12 o'clock. And last time round, which we did one, which was about, I don't know, maybe a month or so ago, we had 70 wonderful mothers turn up in a big group to support the event, and I think they'll come again this Saturday. And we need the mummies to stand up with us as well, and the strong women out there, because I grew up with a twin sister and a mum that were very, very, very strong women, and I've got immense respect for mothers in business, mothers who are home providers and things like that. We homeschool our babies, and my wife, I couldn't do it. I tell you, I could not.
Obviously amazing. Never met her, but she's obviously an amazing woman. 6 kids and homeschooling.
Yeah, well, 3 of them are adults, of course, and don't live with us. But the 3 little ones, ranging from 15, 10, and 5, boom, 5 years apart. She homeschools them. She makes sure they're on track. She makes sure that, they're spiritually being grown as well. And she's amazing, and she's keeping her husband, on track. And sometimes I ring her up, and I'm the one down the end of the phone going, "Oh, honey, wish I was at home." Yeah. She goes, "Come on, honey, not long to go. We'll be right."
And she hasn't given you the boot yet, so she's obviously a fortified, strong lady.
No, that's right, and that's what I mean. When this first kicked off, she didn't want me to do this, and she said to me, "If I can see God in it, I'll support you. If I don't, you'll be packing your gear and leaving." And she'd said that. So my wife is a strong lady and a good lady, and
we like strong ladies.
Yeah, and that's right. And so if you can let them all know on your network to come this Saturday, I'd love to meet you in person.
Where is it, Billy? Where exactly is it?
It's at the Aotea Square in Auckland on this Saturday at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we've got some special guests speaking at it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I'd love to have your support. We've got to send a clear message to the government that this is going to be not the election that they expect. There is a people's movement that's going into Parliament to protect New Zealand from what they want to do to us.
And so this march is actually about the democracy of New Zealand, or what?
It is. It's called the 2020 Rally for Your Freedom event, and it's really the last push and drive into the election into October the 17th. So it'd be really neat to have you guys there, and to meet. Yeah, hopefully you could do a live edit and walk with us, and that'd be good. Be wonderful.
I'm trying to be impartial and have no favourites, but it does sound enticing, I must say.
Just come along as a caring human, as someone that cares about New Zealand. You don't need to wear an advanced New Zealand cap, that's for sure.
I have to tell you though, like I was determined to run this political series, and I did actually have a huge opposition, and that was not about one particular political party. It wasn't about one, it was just about all of it. I had a massive opposition to running the series. I even had people contact my business and a brand that I monetized brand, skincare range, and they contacted head office and tried to shut down my political discussion.
Wow.
Luckily for me, head office said, you do whatever you want, because it's your group and it's private and it's none of their damn business what you talk about. But I had several people trying to attack my business because I was running this political series. So, it just made me feel like, okay, well, it's sink or swim for me as well. I've either got to go, well, that can't matter to me. I really felt like you do. I felt really, really cool to run the series. I felt really like it was very, very important, integral, and I know that this election is incredibly important, and I was willing to risk that, for it, even though it's scary. So I kind of, on a low scale, I kind of understand, what you're giving up as well. So I don't know, big ups to you. All amazing what you're doing, an amazing job. Thanks so much for coming along and chatting with us. And so it's this Saturday, 12 o'clock, Aotea Square, and you're starting with some special speakers, and then is it a march?
And then a march after that. And tonight I'm in Helensville at the Helensville War Memorial, and then I'm debating tomorrow night and Thursday night. And but thank you for your courage too. Thank you for having me today. I just wish everyone that sees this a blessed day, and to take care, keep your eyes open, because we need everybody to be awake this election more than any other election. And it's beyond politics, but it certainly, we certainly need to put in a people's movement that's all there just to serve the people, and that's what Advanced New Zealand is. And I'm humbled to be at the forefront of it, good and bad. And but thank you for this wonderful opportunity. It's been a blessing to have this time with you. Thank you. Thanks. I better go to Helensville now.
You better head off to Helensville. It's a little quaint town. You did used to live there, didn't you?
I did. I loved it too.
All right. Thanks, Billy. Talk soon.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye.